Welcome, everyone, to Creating a Family. Talk about adoption and infertility. Today, our topic is going to be creating an effective adoptive parent profile. This is a topic near and dear to the hearts of anyone trying to adopt a baby in the United States. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I'm Dawn Davenport. I'm the director of Creating a Family. We are the National Adoption and Infertility Education and Support nonprofit, and you can find us online at creatingafamily.org. One of the things we do at Creating a Family is provide education, and we have an entire center dedicated to adoptive parent education. It's called Adoptive for Parents. You can find it by going to our website, creatingafamily.org, hover over the word online courses, and then click on Adopt Ed for Parents. We have 100 some odd, I'm not even sure the exact number, courses relevant to every topic you could possibly imagine in adoption. I really mean that. We have, when you have 100, come on, let's think about it. It's going to be easy to cover just about every topic. We cover domestic infant adoption topics. We cover international and foster care topics. And I think the courses are 1 hour. They're audio interviews with experts, and you get a certificate of completion at the end after passing a 10-question quiz. You don't have to take the quiz and get the certificate of completion if you don't need it, which is often the case with post-adoption. But pre-adoption, if your agency requires education, please go to Adopt Ed for Parents and let your agency know about it. The Creating a Family radio show is underwritten by our corporate sponsor, Ferring Pharmaceutical. They have recently launched My Fertility Navigator, which is a service which offers free one-on-one support for women who are struggling to get pregnant and are unsure of where they should go and how to begin the next step. Once enrolled in My Fertility Navigator, women will receive a personalized guidance from a live, dedicated fertility navigator who can help provide information about infertility and fertility, including things such as letting them know where a nearby fertility center is, giving them information on financial resources, discussing some of the treatment options and things like that. You can get more information about My Fertility Navigator, and remember, it is free to you. You can go to their website, myfertilitynav.com/CAF. The last part, /CAF, is really important because it lets them know that you found out about them through us. This show, as well as all the resources provided by Creating a Family, could not happen without the generous support from our sponsors who believe in our mission of providing unbiased education and support to those struggling to create a family. We have different levels of sponsorship, but the highest level is considered a gold sponsor. And some of our wonderful gold sponsors include Children's House International. They are a nonprofit, Hague-accredited international adoption agency with programs in 13 countries. They provide full service, including home studies in the states of Florida, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Texas, Utah, and Washington State. And they also place children with any U.S.-approved family worldwide. And we have Children's Connections. They are an adoption agency providing services for domestic infant adoption and embryo donation and adoption throughout the U.S. They also provide home studies and post-adoption support to families in Texas. Today, we are going to be talking about creating an effective parent profile, adoptive parent profile. As a part of domestic adoption, most agencies and attorneys require that parents create called a portfolio or a profile, which is then it's intended to show all about them and highlight them as a family. And it is shown to expectant parents who may be considering adoption. That puts a lot of pressure on the adoptive parents to create an effective profile, one that will be attractive to expectant parents. We're going to be talking today with Madeleine Melcher. She is an adoptee, a mom of 3 through adoption, and the owner of Journey to You, an adoption profile design company. And most important, she's the author of a great book called How to Create a Successful Adoption Profile, Easy Steps to Help You Produce the Best Adoption Profile, and Prospective Birthparent Letter. Long title, very good book. And so Madeleine will be with us. We also have Aki Parker. She is a marketing and design professional who has worked for many years with adoptive families on creating birth parent letters and online prospective adoptive parent profiles. So this is a re-airing of a show we did 3 years ago. The information is just as relevant, if not more so, for adoptive parents. So we are very happy to bring it to you again. I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome, Aki and Madeleine, to Creating a Family.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you. It's you're such a great resource. I'm just so pleased to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, glad to be here. Let's keep our fingers crossed for the technology gurus to keep up their work. There's a lot of moving parts in today's show, and it turns out I don't like the anxiety associated with all this. It's been driving me nuts. Anyway, I'm going to start with a very basic question, because a lot of people will be turning to this show when they're first beginning to consider adoption, and there are adoption options. What type of adoption? Adoption portfolios it's also known as adoption profiles, are primarily used with domestic adoption in the United States. But let's start with and not with international adoption. But let's start with a real simple profile and an understanding of what we mean by an adoption profile or an adoption portfolio. Madeleine, you wrote the book on it, literally and figuratively. So tell us just kind of basic, a real basic understanding of what that is.
Okay, thanks, Dawn. I would say it is something your agency or your adoption attorney is going to use to show to an expectant parent who is considering an adoption plan, and it's going to be a snapshot of your life and what you have to offer to a child that you would like to bring into it. So you're not directing to a specific audience. It's about you. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make. So it's really about you and what you have to offer a child, what your level of openness may be. It will include many different factors about you, but that's what it is. It's about you, and it's to be directed to an expectant parent considering an adoption plan. And then it will be shown to them, sometimes 4 or more at a time, and they may narrow down people they'd like to speak to further. We were chosen directly from ours without any further contact with the expectant parents. Everybody's story is a little bit different, but that's how most stories in domestic adoption through an agency or attorney begin. Mm-hmm.
And we realize, by the way, everyone, how intimidating this sounds. But to have no fear, that is really what today's show is all about. It is less intimidating when I'm not saying it's not still intimidating, but it is less intimidating when you actually begin. So, Aki, let me ask you a question. In the olden days, back in the day, people did not, this is not the method that people used adoptive parents did not have to prepare these. What's changed, and why are parents now required to prepare them when, not even all that long ago, they were not required to?
Mainly now, especially with the internet and technology and things are changing, it's really more of the sense of that marketing yourself. Really, you are marketing yourself because it is about you, and it's a form of reaching out. And I think it's just technology has changed as far as because it did used to be printed. It used to be only prints, and sometimes it would be, if you did have an online presence, it would be maybe a personal website that you developed that way. So I think really it's just the change with technology and things have developed. And also, as far as our company and agency, we, get feedback directly from birth parents and just letting us know things that maybe they may be considering, when they're trying to connect with potential families that way. So I think that's really an important aspect as well that has formed the development of where we are now when it comes to.
Dawn, Madeleine, may I interject on that question?
Yeah, please.
I wanted to add, I also think the level of openness that has come to be in adoption has made a difference in the prevalence of adoption portfolios or profiles. I think there is a much more direct level of contact, even if there isn't continued contact after the child is born or throughout the child's life. There's a much greater level of understanding and wanting to truly feel how the child will be living than there once was. And I find that a lot of times these things end up provoking a greater openness in adoption because they do get to know each other a little better and realize, hey, this isn't as scary as I thought it was to continue a relationship with the birth family or adoptive family.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right, and I think that for some people they're thinking way far back when in fact it was more the agency that was matching the family and the birth mom. But that's no longer the case for the vast majority of domestic infant adoptions in the U.S. It is the expectant mom or the expectant parents who select the adoptive family. So the need for the profile or the portfolio is a thing that can be given to them to help them make the selection. So I think that sometimes when people say it didn't used to be that way, they're thinking back, hearkening way back to the day when it was in fact the agency. We got a question from Luella. It's kind of one of those questions I always dread when somebody asks kind of that question that's just, it's so broad. But I'll read it. I emailed her back and told her that was a $64 million question that she was asking. She said, what are birth mothers looking for? Let me, but I want to use this. Obviously, it's too Luella. We will definitely ask that specific question a little later. But I wanted to use that question as kind of a jumping off place to talk about language and words that we use. And this may be, for some of you who are listening, seemingly a little picky, but in fact, when a woman is pregnant, she's not a birth mother yet. She is considering adoption. But in every state in the United States, she cannot relinquish her parental rights until after birth. So in fact, when she is pregnant, she's an expectant mom, expectant mother. And so you might be saying, okay, potato, but in fact, it's important, and I'm really not playing word police here, but I do think it's important for us to give some thought to that because it does change our attitude ever so slightly, and that's important. It's both an issue of respect. She is a mother. She will always be a mother, but in this case, she is the mother, and she is considering making an adoption plan, and she has the right, and many women do, change their mind. So I say that, and the reason I bring that up is again, just to kind of, this will be a show that a lot of people are listening to at the beginning, and I do want them to at least hear that so they won't be surprised if they see it or hear it at other places. The other reason I wanted to bring it up is we had quite a discussion a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was, on the Creating a Family Facebook group. That's the closed support group we have on. It's a large group, about 4,000 now. It's a really supportive and a great place, and I strongly encourage everybody to come on over there and just type in the words Creating a Family in the Facebook search box at the very top. The group and the page, Creating a Family Facebook page, will pop up. You can like the page. But then please go further and actually open the group. You have to click join. We have to admit you because it is a closed group, which means that what you post there is not shown outside of the group. But we had quite a discussion about the term Dear Birth Mother Letter. And I thought it would be interesting to hear both of your perspectives on that. It used to be, and actually in some places it still is, this portfolio, the adoptive parent portfolio or the adoptive parent profile, is also referred to as a Dear Birth Mother Letter or sometimes a Dear Birth Parent Letter. And there were people on the group who were saying that they felt like that was being disrespectful, and that given that we now are trying to refer to women who are pregnant as an expectant mom, not as a birth mother, for fear of being unduly coercive. Anyway, it was a great discussion, and I thought they had some really valid points. And Aki, I thought I'd ask your opinion first, and then Madeleine. Do you see a movement away from calling them Dear Birth Mother, the portfolio or the profile, calling it a Dear Birth Mother letter for this reason, or is that not so much universal?
I do think that it is something that people have been considering. That's actually something that we've discussed as far as that, because sometimes, like you were saying, it's it can be a misconception. You don't want it to be approached or misconstrued by a potential birth parent, because of course they are considering adoption at that time. So I think definitely it is something to consider as far as that goes.
Madeleine, what are you seeing in your
well, first of all, let me say, please, I have this in the book. I don't let my clients do it. Please never write Dear Birth Mother in your letter, in your profile. Don't. They're not a birth mother yet, so you're just wrong when you write that. Two, they're just another person. They're another person that you're meeting, that you're introducing yourself to, that you're trying to share your life and what you have to offer with. So, hello is great. They're another person. And yes, they are an expectant mother, and they very well may change their mind. At the last hour, you don't know, and that is their prerogative. That is their child, and you also have to be cognizant of that when you're writing your profile. It's her child. So you really have to keep these things in mind, and that may be the only thing right now that she has of her own, or the only bit of power she feels is in her very own decisions, depending on the situation she's in. So to start calling her a birth mother before she is one or has fully decided to be one, really, not only could it be deemed as coercive, but it really takes away from her and her choice.
Okay. All righty. Well, good. I just kind of wanted to get that out there because people will also see it referred to. You know, it's funny, Creating a Family is the National Adoption Education Organization, and so we're producing resources. We want people. We've got the largest presence online in the social networks in this area, and we're producing resources all the time for people to utilize, and it's always hard for us because we have to anticipate what people are going to be using to search online. That's where people are getting their information. And it's in particular, it is problematic because people use the term birth mom more often, or birth mother more often than expectant parent. And we debate it all the time. What we try to do is include both terms, so when people search, it will pop up, and we try to include a brief lesson about terminology. But but on the other hand, if we don't include language that people are using when they search, then they aren't finding the resources, and ultimately that's our goal. So it's something that we think about a lot and struggle with a lot on the best way to do it.
Well, Dawn, I also wanted to say is that, this is Madeleine, is that so many times I run into some agencies that are still requiring that people write Dear Birth Mother, that are still themselves calling it Dear Birth Mother letter. So people don't know any better. Then I understand what you're running into with having to do the search terms. That's why Prospective Birthparent letter is in the title of my book, is because that's what people are looking for. That's what they still think it is. And so you want them to be able to find the resources so that they know actually what they should be doing. So
exactly. And we often err on the side of exactly doing what you say. We include the word prospective. But that, so I hear exactly what you're saying, and yet there's still people who will take offense to us doing it that way. We're just doing the best we can. Madeleine, let's start. If you were going to do, say, a table of contents for these. So, guys, I'm not suggesting that we actually would put a table of contents. But what I would like for you to do is tell us the key components that will be in this portfolio. Kind of like if you were creating a table of contents, what would be in this portfolio? And we're going to go into detail on the different parts. But first, tell us what the parts are, Madeleine.
I think it varies just a tad depending on your specific life, because some people, different things are a little more important to than others, but there will be general things. You'll have your cover, that's like your smiling handshake, and occasionally some agencies will require that there be a short letter on the cover page rather than a letter page itself. But either way, I hate to see people skip the letter, which occasionally people want to. Don't skip the letter. So you'll have the letter. Then you'll have sections about you, and if you have a partner, things about the strengths in your relationship. If you have a child in the home, if you have adoption in the family, those will be parts of your profile. A section about your home and your the area around you. Perhaps you'll include your family and friends. You want to show you have that support around you. I like to see a closing page. Some people just end, boom, like with their pet. Please don't end with your pet. Please come full circle. And just like you said, hello, you're going to say, thanks for talking to me, and end with the things that you felt were most important that you wanted them to leave your profile with. Or perhaps your promises that you really have to be prepared to keep. So those elements will definitely fall in line. Those are definitely things that expectant mothers are going to be looking for answers to. Do you have the support? Do you have a home that has room and a warm, cozy place? Maybe they want to see a baseball field or a park near your house. Those kinds of things. They want to see what kind of person you are, what kind of interests you have, what will be a part of the child's daily life. So what is actually the details of it really depends on what your life is. But those are kind of the basics that you'll include within your profile. Whether it's full pages dedicated to those things or just sections, it will depend on your guidelines.
How long should, in total, how many pages should a portfolio, adoptive parent portfolio be?
That's a tough question because it really depends on who you ask, Dawn. That it varies so much, agency by agency. Aki, you at IAC, do you all do 4 pages?
Right. Ours is about 4 pages, and I would say probably we say about 700 to 950 words max, just because so that it's not too text heavy overall. And also, in addition to the things you had, Madeleine, some other great aspects as a part of a parent profile are those supporting photos and just having those strong visuals to really support the text overall. And basically really just, if possible, showing potential birth parents how great you would be with children and including children in your supporting photos if possible, to really add those strong visual aspects to profiles.
Dawn, in terms of the length, it's Madeleine again. I sometimes have portfolios that are 20 pages long, and we upload the original designs to Shutterfly, and they make beautiful hard or soft-bound books out of them. It just, it really depends on the agency or attorney as to how much flexibility, or sometimes they want you to have a book, and that's fine, and some don't. Some just want you to have a saddle stitch printed thing that can easily be sent with 10 others to an expectant mother across the country. You really need to be clear on the guidelines that you're given. And you need to say to them, if they say they don't have many guidelines, say, will you be as likely to send mine if it's a book, or if it's heavier, or if it's spiral bound instead of just a folded saddle stitch? Because you want to go out every time you can.
Okay, let me stop you here and let me read a question from Brenna. Well, I'll just summarize the question. She's asking a question about exactly this. the specific format that she has seen, book formats where it is done, she's calling it professionally, but in fact there are a lot of services, Shutterfly, other Snapfish, a lot of services will turn things into a book. And she's asking about the advantages versus disadvantages of that. Her concern, which you're summarizing, is that if it is not in the same format as others, that agencies would be less likely to send it out. Or that she's wondering that, and she's weighing the relative advantages of that. Aki, as somebody with an agency, you said that and I know that there are agencies that are very specific as to which it sounds like that you got that you independent adoption center, you guys are specific. Would you prohibit? Do you prohibit families from submitting books, and if so, what's kind of in general your idea as to why keeping it short might?
Definitely for us, we definitely do have a word limit as far as letters when it comes to the profiles, and then as well as letters, because we do feel like that it being not necessarily short, but on the shorter side, just because sometimes in situations as far as our agencies go, depending on what potential birth parents are looking for, they may have more people and letters to review or profiles to review. So depending on families, they may have more families to review information. So that can, I guess, in addition to some things that they're considering as far as adoption goes, we don't want to make a potential birth parent feel overwhelmed in any way with, too much information, but still at the same time hitting those key points so that a birth parent can feel that they're able to learn the things that they would want to learn about families. So that's our take on it as far as it being longer.
I've heard from some agencies that they want all the portfolios to be very similar. I mean, not in content, but in look. And their theory on that is that they would like for there not to be a expectant couple or parents to be overly swayed by a fancy exterior, and they felt like that if they keep the portfolio similar, it helps anyone focus on, and it's obviously fairly overwhelming what you're doing, what the mom and the dad are doing at that point.
Right.
So anyway, Madeleine, have you heard that from your experience as an independent? Do you see that most agencies prefer that there be set guideline limits, or are most adoption agencies or adoption attorneys pretty open to whatever the parents, the prospective adoptive parents want?
I would say it's pretty close to half and half. I would say about half of the clients that I've worked with come with some pretty specific guidelines. Maybe a fourth of them come with very stringent multiple-page guidelines, which is part of what makes this very overwhelming for people, because they look at that and go, I already didn't know how to do it. Now you're telling me I have to do it exactly like this, but I don't know what I'm doing. So then I would say the other half, they really just say, go with it, or they might just say, don't let it go over 9 or 10 pages. And so people are just they're kind of left with, well, I have no idea what's supposed to go in this, and you didn't give me any direction. So it's really both ends of the spectrum leave people feeling very frustrated. And I think that's part of the thing is I know the portfolios I do are visually very nice to look at, and I know they include what they're supposed to. And what had always bothered me was that I do want there to be a level playing field. If people can't afford to hire me, or if people don't know what they're doing, which a lot don't know what, just because they want to adopt doesn't mean they know.
Most of us don't know what we're doing.
Right. That's what led me to work with JKP and writing my book, was to help kind of level the playing field a little bit for those that just didn't have any idea, and to also kind of open their eyes to some of the things about expectant parents and those who will become birth mothers. And I got to work with birth mom buds and a little bit on that. And so I feel like those kinds of things are very important to know from the very beginning. And people just, they just don't know. They want to do right. They just don't know. And so you do want it to be fair. You don't want just the people who have the prettiest profiles to get picked.
But I also think that from my discussions with women and couples who are making this decision, they're looking beyond just the pretty exterior as well, I think. Let me read a specific question we have from Ryan. He says, can you have too many pictures, and are there specific types of pictures to avoid or to make sure you include? Aki, let's talk some about photos. What makes a good photo? What should we avoid, and what should we include?
Okay, definitely for photos, that's a great question. Basically, for photos, they can fall into two categories. Usually, you have a main photo on your parent profile, and then, of course, those supporting photos we were discussing earlier. So, basically, as far as the main photo, what goes into that is for couples or anyone. Basically, that's going to be that front photo that everyone, a potential birth parent would see first. So definitely you want to have warm, inviting smile and be happy and just really convey that warm emotion to potential birth parents. And definitely for couples, you want to have good body language and just look really connected to each other, because definitely these true emotions that you are feeling for each other or for being happy, they'll definitely be conveyed in that photo. So definitely with supporting photos, it's great to definitely want to include photos with children if possible, and really just take that opportunity. We always say and stress, if possible, to use candid photos versus a lot of static posed photos, because overall that can kind of make your profile seem static if you have too many posed photos versus candid shots where you're really in the moment of doing something. And definitely with photos, it's great to also, we call them action shots, which means you don't have to be flying through the air on skis, but that just means basically you're doing an activity with children or showing something like baking cookies or, just things that you really imagine and envision yourself doing with your child, and then really showing that to a potential birth parent. So definitely those are probably the strongest types of photos that you would want to include in your profile overall.
Madeleine, are there any specific photos we would suggest that people should avoid?
Well, of course, I think any where there's drinking or smoking or anything like that involved. I don't think all expectant parents are teetotalers, but it just does not need to be a part of your profile. Crop it out, find another picture. I do think in terms of the question, can there be too many pictures? I think when the pictures become too small on the page, small enough that you can't appreciate the content of the picture itself, because you've put so many other things on the page, whether it be too much text, which is also a mistake, or too many other pictures, then you have too many. They need to be large enough that someone can really look right at them without squinting, without pulling the page closer to them, without wondering, to be able to take the picture in and to be able to know that it's you. Don't make it you like across two fields at a pond. We want to be able to see you there fishing, and make your captions good. The captions can be as important as the picture, because you can include what you want to offer to a child within that caption. Always remember that's the main point of this. And don't just say, we love to go to the beach. You're looking forward to adding to your seashell collection with a little one in a beach pail. You're looking forward to building those sandcastles as a family. Those are the pictures that you're creating with your captions and with your pictures.
speaking of beach shots, what is each of your opinions on bathing suit pictures for adoptive parents? Madeleine, you want to start with that? And Aki, you can chime in a yay or a nay.
Okay. Oh golly. I have seen them. I have seen them on online profiles. I've seen them in people's printed profiles. I think that some are less appropriate than others. Me personally, I don't even want to try on a bathing suit. I'm not going to. If I was adopting again, I would not have one in my profile. But, I think there are some where it can be appropriate. If you have a child, and that's exactly what you're doing, is sitting in the sand, building a sandcastle with your child, and you have on a mom-ish bathing suit, that's fine. But just like any other picture, any other clothing you're going to be wearing in the pictures in your profile, let's use our better judgment in what is appropriate and what is not for public consumption. Keep in mind, these are people you're just meeting for the first time. Right. So I think that if you go into it with that idea, while you do want to show your life and be open and honest, and I really feel like the profiles where people are really themselves and put themselves out there make the most headway, but putting yourself out there takes on a whole different meaning depending on the bathing suit you're wearing. So, I think just use your better judgment.
I think the bottom line, I think what I'm hearing you guys say, I liked how you said a mom-ish because it occurs to me that that's the only bathing suit I own, and my body is definitely a mom-ish looking body. So so that would work fine, but a skimpy, bikini shot, it's because you got to realize the woman who's looking at this is, probably 5, 6, 7, 8 months pregnant. I don't know. It just seems that may not be your best bet. We have a question from Zoe asking about pictures that show tattoos. And she was kind of vague, so I'm not sure what she means, but I think what Zoe's question is, should she, if she didn't say where her tattoo was, but let's assume it's in the visible part of her body, and it's not a close-up of the tattoo, but it's a picture of her, with her arm, and it's got a tattoo on it. From your experience, is that something not that you're trying to hide or not hide? If you have a tattoo, should you just be showing it, or should you look to take a picture from the other side? At least for you're only going to have 10 pictures and something like that you don't necessarily want to highlight that. What are your thoughts on that? Aki, start, and then Madeleine, I'll let you finish up on that one.
Okay, that's another great question. I definitely feel that as far as it goes with tattoos and photos, definitely if that is who you are, I don't think that should be something that you should try to obscure in photos, because it definitely that kind of connects with the question that you mentioned when we first began about what are birth mothers, potential birth parents looking for. And definitely it could be a potential birth parent that is looking, maybe that may be something that she connects with, or maybe that's something that means more to her versus another birth parent who could be completely different and not connect with that at all. So I think, and definitely, of course, remember, if she chooses you and she says, okay, this is who we want, and then she meets you and she's like, that's not who I saw in the pictures, or that's not what, right. Then she may kind of be left out feeling like, well, I don't feel like they were completely honest. So I think that goes into definitely being who you are when it comes to text and photos, and really just being who you are in photos.
Anything different to add, Madeleine?
Well, I do think, again, it goes back to content. Let's think about what your tattoo is as well. Is it something appropriate that you want to share on your first meeting with someone? I have seen perfectly fine tattoos. I've seen some very inappropriate tattoos. It just, I'm not saying you need to hide yourself or anything else. If you really feel that's a part of your identity and you're going to let that shine, or if you think that maybe that's something you could hold off on until you speak further with someone. My husband made a very early in life poor choice of a really interesting tattoo on his arm that his mother nor I were particularly proud of, but it's nothing that, you know, the PTO couldn't see. But I felt a little bit apprehensive about it being in our first letter and then our other two profiles. But I went ahead and put it in. It was a darling picture of him deep sea fishing, and you could see it on his arm. And I have to tell you, as quickly as our children came, I don't think it held us back one bit. I don't think it showed him in a different light than he is as a person. So I think that's really a person-by-person choice, if that's something you want to do. But again, if it's profane, please don't include it.
Well, you know, but here's the thing. If you've got a profane tattoo that's highly visible and is not easily hidden, then that says something. I mean, that is who you are. I mean, you made a choice, of course, as you point out. Sometimes
true.
Yeah, you know, that in a way you're trying to show who you are, and it's not fair to an expectant woman to hide who you are. Although I hear what you're saying. Sometimes there are mistaken tattoo things that either when you're sober or when you are older you regret and wish that you had not done. All right, so I think we've covered. We're looking for pictures, and I'm really glad. I think it was Madeleine, you mentioned the captions. It does seem that captions are a great place for you to show a little bit of your personality, a little bit of a wink or something that that you can. And by your picture selection too, you can show your personality, which ultimately is what you're wanting to do. You're wanting to give this mom an idea of who you are and who will be the potential parent to her child. So, all right, here is a question from Sarah Ann. She says, we are not a religious family. We've been advised to hide this in our profile by just not addressing it. How should religion be addressed? And I would assume that Sarah Ann's question is because she is not a religious person and they're not a religious family, but I would assume that the opposite could be the case as well, that a very religious family would be having a question as well. So I think the general question, and Madeleine, if you'd start with this, how do you suggest religion be addressed in the adoptive parent portfolio?
I think if it's important to you, then you make it a part of it. You don't need to hide it under a bushel. If it's a part of your life, my faith is a part of my life. It went in all of our profiles and our letter because it's how I would raise my children. It's how I, live my life. It's the kind of mother I wanted to be. It was the way my mother was and what I planned on following. So it was a part of me. So, and my life, I felt it was important it be included.
What about, though, in Sarah Ann's case, where the issue is they are not a religious family?
Then I feel they just don't address it. And if it is truly important to an expectant mother, odds are she'll ask about it. There are some expectant mothers that very clearly want adoptive parents of a specific denomination or want to know that a child will attend church, or some are just very spiritual because they're human beings. They're all different, just like we are, and so we're going to all be different too. So there will be someone for us, but you have to be who you are. You can't be something different. You can't, make up who you are. That's not a part of your profile. So if that's not a part of your life, it's not a part of your profile, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be, but you do have to be honest if it comes up. If it is important to an expectant parent, you do always have to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I also had something to add as well. In addition to that, I totally agree with that. This is the key. And definitely, I think as far as it goes on the agency end of things as well, sometimes of course, when you have, as far as our agency, you would disclose to us your preferences as far as what your religion is, and then also we allow birth parents as well, potential birth parents, to choose as far as what type of family they want, as well if that's something that's important to them. And then definitely, like you said, Madeleine, if that's a part of you, then definitely discuss that in your letter. But if it's not, then definitely, of course, focus on those other things. But I think those were good points as well.
I've never seen it hurt anyone either way. I've had clients included, clients not included. I've never seen it really hurt anyone, except for in the case of when it was narrowed down to two couples and the expectant parent wanted a specific denomination. That's not something you can suddenly change or control for, the purpose of your profile or the purpose of adopting a child.
Yeah.
So,
the choice. If you change for the period of time so you get selected, then the odds of you maintaining and continuing in that faith are not great. So that's deceptive, and that's and that's there are definitely birth mothers who are looking for religious families, but there are also definitely birth moms. Mm-hmm. In this case, I'm using the wrong terminology. Expectant moms who are who would prefer that their child not be raised in a particularly heavily religious family. I'm sure there are some expectant women who might even prefer no religion. I haven't really seen that too much, but I've definitely seen some women who have mentioned that they didn't want too much religion or didn't want it crammed down their kids' throat or whatever. Mm-hmm. So in other words, there's something for everybody. All right, here's a question from Kara. She says, my husband is in a wheelchair. How would your guest suggest we handle this? And I'd like to actually expand Kara's question to how to handle health issues in general. In this case, they've got a visible one, which is, her husband is in a wheelchair. And there are other visible handicaps, but there are a lot of health issues that are not visible through pictures. So let's start with you, Aki. How do you suggest that prospective adoptive parents deal with both the obvious, in this case, a wheelchair issue, and the not so obvious, which might be health issues that are more less not visible, a former cancer diagnosis, or I don't know, think of.
I think.
Something.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think it cut out a little bit, but I heard your question. I think that as far as it goes with any type of physical, possible disabilities, I think it's definitely important it just goes back to everything we're discussing when it comes to text and photos, just being honest with potential birth parents and talking about it in your letter, in your text, and also displaying in your photos. And really when it comes to the visuals, the type of things that you are doing as far as what type of photos you include, just really, show potential birth parents that, okay, even though, I may have a disability in this sense, I will still be a great parent. And that is what I think comes down to, and just being honest with potential birth parents. And then as well, I think when it comes to text and discussing that, I don't think that it would have to be something that you would continually discuss throughout the letter. I think that it's something that should be mentioned because it's important to be honest. But at the same time, I don't think that should be the main focal point. It doesn't have to be. And then also as well when it comes to if it may be a disability or a sickness or illness, I think it's just important to focus on the aspects of how you'll be as a potential parent, and really being honest with birth parents in that sense, and focusing on the things that you look forward to doing in the future with your child, and really just being honest with birth parents. And then I think definitely just being honest in that sense all the way around, whether it's a physical disability or it's an illness. I think it's just important to totally just be honest, and definitely don't make it you don't have to make it the main focus. Just be honest, and it'll convey in your text and your photos as well.
Madeleine, any thoughts on that? Health issues in general or physical?
I do agree with being honest. I think some of the stuff, though, is not going to come into play in your profile, as there's some crossover between your home study, which is much more in-depth, and we'll go into more physical and psychological things. But I do think when you have a more overt illness or a physical disability or something like that, the important thing always in your profile, whether you have a disability or not, is you're showing what you can do, what you will do, your strengths, the person that you are. So you are not defined by your disability. You are smart. You enjoy XYZ. You can have a little one hop up in your lap and read a book. You can play basketball. You can, there's a million things you can do. So I think, as with anything else, don't dwell on what you can't do. Don't dwell on the negatives. You need to stay in the positive, because you want to have a child as a part of your life. If that's going to be all surrounded in negative, no, of course not. You have all of these other things to offer. So that's what you dwell on. You dwell on your strengths as a couple for getting through whatever illness or issue has gone on. That's what you do, because that's who you are.
Gosh, let me take a moment right now to thank a few more of our gold sponsors and to remind you that it is through their generous support that we can bring you this show and quite frankly, all the resources we provide at Creating a Family. We have Nightlight Christian Adoptions. They have offices in California, Colorado, and South Carolina, and adoption programs through the Domestic Infant Program and their Snowflake Embryo Donation Embryo Adoption Program. We have children's infant adoption, embryo donation, home studies, as well as post-adoption families throughout the U.S. Services, they provide post-adoption support to adoptees, adoptive parents, and birth parents through their branch offices, as well as their adoption professionals over the phone. 8 Eastern Time, and that's for all of the day. Back to another question we have is how to treat pets, and I'm reading between the lines in this question, but maybe I'm going to broaden the question. In particular, some people are in many ways like children in their minds. How do you dwell on your your life?
Okay, Dawn, I'm going to guess what you just said. I'm so sorry. I know you're in Mexico with those sweet babies. I think you're asking me about pets and how you handle that when people think they're like their babies. Is that what you asked me? Okay, I'm going to go with that. Well, obviously you do not want to call them your fuzzy babies or anything like that in your profile if you want to include your pets. I know we had 2 dogs when my husband and I met and we got married, and God love them, I used to dress them up in Halloween costumes. So, yes, I loved those dogs. But, when it comes to your profile, you can totally be honest that you're a pet lover and share pictures of your pets and be sure you show them with children, that they can be gentle with children, or get right up in somebody's face without biting their nose or scratching them or anything like that. But you have to be careful of the verbiage there. You don't want expectant parent to look at that and be like, okay, surely you're not equating your Cocker Spaniel to the child I'm carrying. So there is a line there, but I think if you have pets, if you love pets, include them. I know some people dissuade it just in case there's those expectant parents who don't like pets. We're human beings. We're all going to like and dislike certain things. There may be an expectant parent that had that kind of pet, that loves that kind of pet, that wanted that kind of pet. It's your life. It's about you. You cannot direct it towards any one person.
Definitely. I agree with that as well. And also, in addition to that, if you would like to discuss your pets, you can just, I think an important aspect is to just also focus on how you see your, how excited your pets are as well about welcoming the child into your family, and just discuss the things that your pet is looking forward to experiencing with your child, from, belly rubs to all kinds of warm, cuddly things that, your pet is looking forward to experiencing with a new little friend.
Sure. I totally agree. If they love it when the neighbor's kids throw the tennis ball in the backyard, include that. Put a little picture, and they can't wait for their playmate. Put how loyal they are, gentle. Only if it's true. If you have a nippy dog, please don't put that.
I was going to ask about that. What if you do have a breed that has the breed has a bad reputation? I'm assuming if you have an animal that you are actually concerned about safety issues, you would be finding another home for that pet so that you wouldn't be endangering your child. But let's assume you've got a pit bull or a German shepherd or a breed that has a bad reputation, but in fact, let's hope you have already made the decision, the knowledge that yours is not. How would you handle, and Aki, how would you handle that? Let's say a pit bull.
Definitely something, and that's something that we always discuss with clients in our monthly sessions when they're incoming. Definitely, if you have a larger breed dog or something of that nature, that it's definitely important to show that pet with a child and just show how friendly they are with children. And we also say, even if your pet isn't a larger breed dog or anything, anytime you can add a child into the image and just show, okay, this is a cuddly doggy, but especially so if you have a larger breed dog. Definitely want to show them with a child, because it's showing how great they would be with a child, and that they're safe, that they're just big teddy bears, and that you can't judge a book by its cover sometimes.
All right, good. I want to circle back, and we're running out of time here, and I want to circle back to what I guess it was Luella's question at the very beginning about what birth mothers are looking for. Now that, of course, is there are, for every single expectant woman, there would be a separate answer, because we are all unique human beings, and each woman, each mom is looking for a different thing. But you guys have a lot of experience in this. Is it possible to, if you could say 2 or 3 things that you think have some universal appeal that expectant parents are looking for when they're making this, which is the biggest decision they will ever make in their life? Madeleine, do you want to start with that?
Well, I think if you think about the things that you asked yourself when you decided if you were ready to become a parent, those are going to be the first questions an expectant parent is going to wonder about you. Do you have a proper home for a child? Do you have a solid relationship? Can you provide for a child? That's where it kind of starts, and then it's the details that blossom out from that make you, that make you unique, that will actually help you to find the expectant mother that best connects with you. It's those details, the uniqueness, that will ultimately find the expectant mother. But you have to answer to the general questions that, of course, as a mother, they are going to want to know.
Okay. All right. Aki, anything that you would see in your experience that you see that expectant parents are specifically looking for?
I think definitely all of those things. Definitely that it could be the unique aspects of, definitely, as Madeleine said, like who you are as people that will show how you will be as parents, and just being honest, and definitely showing potential birth parents that your home will be warm, will be inviting, and that a child will flourish and grow, and that I think that's mainly what would be important for birth parents. And again, it can vary depending on what she's looking for, but that a child will be happy and that a child will flourish and develop in your home with you as parents, to really show that to a potential birth parent.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much, Aki Parker and Madeleine Melcher, for being our guest today on Creating a Family. Thank you, audience, for sticking with us through what has not been ideal technical circumstances. So I appreciate your patience in that. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you next week.
Let's say you just bought a house. Bad news is, you're one step closer to becoming your parents. You'll proudly mow the lawn. Ask if anybody noticed you mowed the lawn. Tell people to stay off the lawn. Compare it to your neighbor's lawn. And complain about having to mow the lawn again. Good news is, it's easy to bundle home and auto through Progressive and save on your car insurance, which, of course, will go right into the lawn. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.
The Starlight Lounge presents An Evening with the Progressive Box.
Old moon, yeah. That's Hugo, tickling the ivories. He just saved by bundling home and auto with Progressive. Gonna finally buy a ring for that gal of yours, Hugo? Send her my condolences. Hi-oh! This next one's for you two. There's a burglar in my heart. Thank you.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.